Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Ben podcast. And I'm so happy you're here. I'm happy that you stopped by, you're hanging out with me and maybe taking a little bit a break from your day, or who knows what you're doing, but I'm glad you stopped by. And if you're new, my name is Ben and this is my podcast where I talk about life, ministry, and really whatever God puts on my heart. And so I hope that this podcast brings you joy. I hope it brings you encouragement. But ultimately, I hope it brings God glory. And, that's what I'm about here. This is, again, about ministry and things that I love to do. So, yeah, welcome. And I hope you stick around for many more episodes. So, what are we going to talk about today, Ben? And that's a question that I was asking myself 30 minutes ago. Obviously, with camp, I'm super busy. So I don't really get to plan out these podcast episodes. A lot of times I'm doing them kind of more or less I'm doing them like 30 minutes before I record them, but that's fine. I mean, it's what it is. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode. And what I wanted to talk about was something that well, first you might notice, Ben, you have less hair, and I'm going to do this now because someone's probably going to ask about it. So here we go. Yep, I've cut a lot of my hair off. It was more of a lot of change because I had a hairstyle and then it didn't look good. So I said, Diego, buzz it off. So it's off. So my dad's happy now because I actually have a buzz cut like him. So wow, never thought I would say that, but here we are. So I thought I would talk about a couple different things. They relate to camp, and you'll see why. But I think the big thing that I want to talk about this week is the idea of showing love to those who need it. I don't know when you're listening to this, but a day or so ago, you would have heard about Beirut in Lebanon. I believe that's where it is. A big explosion, and it's killed people and it's injured people. And it just kind of adds to this time we're living in, this crazy time we're living in. I still to this day I can't really put in perspective what 2020 has been like. A couple episodes ago I talked about 2020 and the things that we've learned, the things that we can change or whatever, but it's still surreal for me to kind of process and to kind of figure out like what's going on. And so this episode is really kind of circles. It involves camp because obviously I said a lot of these next episodes would involve camp, and this is definitely it. And so I think what I want to talk about is, the world says we need to love. You hear it all the time. You hear it on political ads. You hear it on newspapers and magazines and TV shows, and everyone says to love. Which I'm not opposed of. And I want to make that clear. I'm not opposed that we should not love. But if we're supposed to love, why is there so much judgment in this world? Now, I'm not going to try to get political. I'm not going to try to go down that route. But I feel like when we talk about love, and I want to, I kind of want to point back to even the conversation that I had with Quentin, which it was his birthday not too long ago, which happy birthday, Quentin. But when I made that video, obviously it was really recent. It was really not recent. It was soon after the George Floyd incident, and a lot of different things were happening. And I wanted to learn more. I wanted to be able to use my voice and my platform to reach those that need to hear a true story, a really an honest conversation is why I called it the honest conversation. And one thing that really stuck out to me when I was talking with Quentin about this was there wasn't judgment towards, white people. There was disappointment. There was frustration, but you didn't see him, blame people. You didn't see him blame to everybody. He would talk about the things that need to be changed, or in the way that we can change, especially someone like me as a white guy that can change. But you didn't see that. And I hope you see that in me as well. Like I tried not to judge based off what I see. I think we all need to live that. I think, God calls us to love each other, and to, treat each other, with respect and love each other. and all these different things. And I think I struggle with the most. And I know it might sound like I'm going in circles, but I really have a point. But I think what is hard for me sometimes is when I hear, especially Christians, and not saying that non-Christians get off the hook here, but when I hear Christians, um, when I hear them say, well, I love this person, but this, I love this person, but that. I struggle with that because as Christians, we are called to love one another, to treat each other with respect, to show God's love to people. I mean, come on, we're called to spread the gospel, to share the gospel. How can you spread the gospel when you look at somebody and you have judgments? And by no means am I saying I'm perfect. If anything, I know I need to really work on this because the first thing that always comes to my head is this judgment of, oh, look at them, or that sounds off. And I think about that all the time. And I'm looking back at my own life going, but I've been judged my whole life. I've been bullied. I've been mentally, physically, and emotionally bullied. But yet sometimes I still do that. And it's in our human nature. It's in our sinful nature to have these judgments, but you can work through them and get past them. So if the world says we need to love, and we hear it all the time, well, if we love, things will be solved. If we just show people love. I'm an American. I look at America and I don't know how much love I see right now. I see a lot of people with points they're trying to make. And I'm not trying to be on one side or the other. I'm not trying to stir up anything. I'm just trying to point out something that we all can realize, no matter what you believe, no matter what side you're on. Loving is not hating each other. Loving is not pushing each other or destroying other people's things or whatever it may be. Loving is taking what God has given you, which is the idea of love, and showing it to somebody else, whether you think they deserve it or not. And it's hard. Trust me, I know it's hard. But I want to start with that because that's such a key thing I think that I've noticed. It basically, as I have watched things happen over the last few months, the coronavirus and everything like that, and everyone's on edge. I really believe that. I think everyone's on edge, and I mean, in a way, rightfully so. But I want to turn it to loving here at camp. And this is where I have a connection here between what I just said and with camp here. We are always dealing with kids from every different background, from backgrounds maybe that they have money, or they are from wealthy families, or maybe they're from a rough background. Maybe they don't have a dad or a mom, or maybe they're from a rough area, or whatever the background is. There's no real chance to judge because, I mean, you can, but you're dealing with so many different kids and you're just trying to teach them a simple game of basketball, or teach them English, or just talk about life. I wonder, why is it so easy that we can talk to kids and to campers about anything, or just teach them something fun like a sport, but we don't really have judgments? No, we might in our heads, but I don't think we ever verbalize them. But I noticed this about myself, that there were times, I said this last week, that there are times when I noticed that I was starting to judge based off behavior or something like that. Last week, I learned how to love. And not like I didn't know how to love, and not like how I haven't been trying, but I learned how to love in a different way. In the aspect of looking at someone as a child of God and looking at them as someone that maybe just needs someone to talk to. So loving doesn't have to be so, ooey gooey. I don't even know if that's a word to use, but loving can just be being there for someone. I said that last week, and that's how these 2 weeks kind of come. I said it's a big circle. We're running a big circle here today. But being here at camp and doing this job, which I love, and working with these kids, which it's a blessing. I want us to think about. For me, I see it every day. I'm able to interact with kids every day from all different backgrounds. I'm able to love on them in different ways. And I think loving on someone is not just this point blank love. I think loving comes in different ways. And what I mean by that is loving somebody is related to maybe how you relate to them. I know for some kids here that it's more of being one on one with them, maybe teaching them basketball one on one, which I talked about last week. Or maybe it's just hanging out, like playing, dancing weird or singing or just being goofy. Maybe that's the way they feel loved. But in every aspect of life, we need to look at the people we're interacting with and say, how can I show them love? How can I show them Christ's love? It's not easy. I'm not saying it is. And many times I think it's harder than I think what we realize. But at the end of the day, I think when we show love, and at the end of the day, when we are trying to be the best example of Christ we can be, we are showing love. So in the long sense, if we are going about our days like we're told to do, and by living for Christ, then we are showing love. We are showing Christ's love to those who need it the most. So, Ben, how can we talk about love when this world seems like there's just a lot of hate, or there's a lot of disappointment, or a lot of mourning, which there is? And I'm not saying it's easy, like I just said. But what I am saying is this, is that no matter what you go through in life, is when you have Christ, and when that is your focus, life doesn't become about a struggle. Life doesn't become a disappointment. And instead, you look at life a little differently. You look at life as a sense of, this is God's story. I'm just a part of it. I'm just a tool. I know my professors used to talk about all the time, is that when you are a tool, and when you're used as one for God's glory, you start seeing things happen. You start seeing how God is using you for his kingdom. So I talked about loving in the world, and I've talked about loving here at camp. How can we continue to love beyond what the eyes see, but also beyond just what is going on right now in this world? Because let's face it, the world's going to get back to normal at some point. We hope the world's going to slowly start getting back to at least a close idea of what it used to be. Are we going to stop caring as much as we are for, the rights of everyone, for equality for everyone, for the joy of everyone? Or are we going to stop showing Christ's love because, well, my world's back to normal? That's a tough question. And I'm going to be honest, that's a tough question for me to answer. What is it going to be like after this pandemic's over? What's it going to be like when I finish up here in Hungary in 7 months? What's life going to be like? I'm in a new relationship. What's that going to be like? What's that going to be like in a few months? There's all these questions that we will ask that saying, well, what is it going to look like? What is this? What is that? What is that? But if we continue to love with the same focus that we have now, and the same focus we're trying to do, then at the end of the day, we're still going to love. I would rather be loving and doing everything I can to glorify Christ, but also to reach out to those who might be in desperate need to find an answer to their life. I share my testimony every Tuesday here at camp. It's the gospel night. And the one thing I always tell them is this: no matter where your life is, no matter how far you are from God, no matter how close you are to God, we always need God, and God will always chase after you. He will always be there for you to come home. And I also say this: God never gave up on me when I was giving up on him. When I thought I didn't need God, when I thought I had things figured out, God came, and God said, you can come home. I say that because of this. No matter where you are in your life, no matter how hard it seems, Even if no one is doing what I'm talking about now, maybe no one is showing you love. Maybe no one has put the effort forward to show you this. Know that there's one person in this world that does, and that's God. And that's all that matters. For most of my life, I've always been fighting against what people thought of me, the judgments, the different things, even people wondering why I came here to serve. And for many years, I would let that build up on my shoulders. But I soon realized that my answer, and the only answer, is Christ. As much as I was trying to balance the world in Christ, we need to stop balancing the world in Christ and putting Christ first, and the world doesn't need to be balanced with your walk with Christ. Instead, the world should be sinking and Christ should be rising. So what's next? What do we do as the year goes on, as we end 2020 in the next 5-6 months? I would say this: let us take every moment, let's take every conversation with a focus on love. Quentin said in that interview, you have to start talking, you have to start understanding, you have to start listening. I want to add something to that. Let us start loving. Not the love that makes it sense for you, but the love that God calls us to do. Loving one another because he loved us. Because he sent his son for us. He loves us. We don't deserve that, but he does. Let us share that with people around us. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we'll be able to, I think, feel a little bit better. And I think also hopefully make this world a little bit a better place. So I hope that this episode helped you maybe get a glimpse into what I've been going through and some ideas that I've been trying to think about, but also maybe apply it to your own life. Apply it to what's going on in your own life and see how that maybe affects you, or maybe you need to change. But ultimately, I hope this has been an encouragement to you. So once again, I want to thank you again. These episodes are a little shorter, but it's a crazy camp time, and I don't want to keep you too long, but yeah, thank you so much for listening. Again, if you love this podcast and you love listening to what I talk about, or if you have ideas as well, favorite this on Spotify, favorite this on Apple Podcast. It's real simple to do, I think. I don't really know. I've only done it with one podcast. So, but ultimately, yeah, go ahead and do that. It will allow you to kind of stay in touch with what's going on here on this podcast. And then if you're watching on YouTube, which I hope you do, go check out my YouTube. And if you're watching, you're already there. But if you're listening, anyways, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, and then hit that notification bell. And this will allow you to not only let me know how you like the video, or maybe you don't like the video, however, but you'll be able to subscribe and you'll be able to understand and see what's going on in the next months, maybe even look back at old videos, and hopefully give you some encouragement throughout your day, throughout your weeks. So once again, I want to remind you of this, that let us love not just the way we want to, but the way God calls us to. I also want to remind you of this, that we serve an amazing God and that he is faithful and we can trust him. And as always, we'll talk next time.